Hello everyone, and a special welcome to all you wizards, hobbits, and good folk of Earth. And when we say Earth on this show, I mean all of it. Upper Earth, Lower Earth, the one in the middle. This is Versus. I'm your host, Mark Ellis, and rest assured, even though I don't hail from the Shire, I'm not only not wearing shoes, my toenails are also ghastly. This is the program where we take art, artists, and artistic license to make our favorite movies, shows, and performers duel in combat against one another. Not literally, of course, that would require a lot of cleanup, especially when you have the two beloved thespians that we're featuring on today's episode, Daniel Radcliffe and Elijah Wood.
I promise what I'm about to show you is going to make you very happy.
They might claim to be adults now, but they still look so young and precocious, and I say they still could play those characters that skyrocketed them to Hollywood's A-list and nestled them deep within our nerdy hearts. Yes, it's going to be a fun one today, but not just a book-based battle for whose very famous franchise stands tallest. We're also going to be taking the Eye of Sauron to deeply examine the career highlights for both talents away from the limelight. They can go blockbuster big or indie infantile with equal aplomb, and it's up to me and my sorting hat to decipher who's taking the match. In one corner, we have Daniel Radcliffe, who can play a prodigious boy wizard. He's also good at dancing the night away or playing a jet ski that runs on natural gas. In the other corner, we have Elijah Wood, who's just as capable of tossing a ring into a volcano as he is taking down alien teachers or dangling off a cliff, hoping mom chooses the good kid. Those Lord of the Rings Eagles really could have helped in that scenario as well. Here's how we'll determine a winner. Round 1, box office. Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. Round 3, characters. Round 4, iconic moments. And then we'll do a wild card round that could involve whose flicks have the more potent spell castings, or the best tree houses, or even who's gonna grow facial hair first. Like, I know, they're fully grown adults, but their faces, they're so fresh. If the movie and TV roles dry up, they could make a killing in the shaving cream commercial industry.
I guess we all have to make sacrifices.
Fun fact, while this is the first time either Radcliffe or Wood have appeared on the program as themselves, their franchises did tussle a couple seasons back. The Harry Potter film property took on the Lord of the Rings, and it was an all-time slugfest. We had Gandalf going tete-a-tete with Dumbledore, Gimli matching wits with Hagrid. It was a good one. And the winner was? You gotta go watch the episode. Be like the other hundreds of thousands of people that checked it out. But right now, you are amongst the first to see the stars of those movies step onto center stage. Hopefully with their clothes on, Mr. Radcliffe. I heard about that Equus show. There's a lot more than horses getting it on in that play. Let's now do the same.
Here we go.
Round 1, box office. Let's make one thing clear right off the bat. Daniel Radcliffe and Elijah Wood are much more than just Harry and Frodo. They're splendid talents with a loaded resume that shows off their range as actors. But this is a competition, and round 1 is about making money at the movies, so I imagine the boys would want to lead with their best foot forward. Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter are two of the most successful franchises in the history of cinema, and I was just told before air that those films are now available in convenient book form.
Oh, that's convenient.
Remember which movie property kicked off its run first? It was Mr. Potter, who debuted on the big screen in November of 2001, conjuring a worldwide total of $965 million, and it was all said and done. The very next month, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring dominated December with $891 million in global preciousness. So after the first inning, your scorecard should read Radcliffe leading by about $74 million, but our studs were just getting warmed up. Eventually, they both have movies that cross the billion-dollar threshold. Radcliffe finally got there with his last Harry Potter effort on the silver screen, as The Deathly Hallows Part 2 grossed $1.3 billion, topping the total from Part 1, which raked in $951 million. Elijah Wood counters with Return of the King, the finale of the first Lord of the Rings trilogy, and its $1.1 billion haul. The Two Towers did $919 million worth of business, and it's worth noting that Wood does show up in The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey, and that movie did $1 billion as well. I mean, Frodo just kind of shows up to say hi, but it's the Middle-earth version of a celebrity waving goodnight at the end of SNL, and you're like, that person wasn't in a sketch, they're just hanging out.
Why do you rag on me so much? What did I do?
So it seems like global audiences drifted into Harry Potter theaters at a slightly higher clip than Lord of the Rings, but it's a good scrap thus far. Adding to his winnings from the Misty Mountains, Elijah Wood also scored big with movies like Deep Impact at $349 million, Sin City at $158 million, and Back to the Future Part 2 with $331 million. Okay, he's in that movie also for like a second, but look at that little face. The kid hasn't aged a day since he was gaming in that diner way back in 2015.
You don't really know anything about me.
Wood has also forged a productive voiceover career, including the Happy Feet films Everyone Loves Penguins, which is why those movies combined for over $500 million. Them penguins are so filthy rich, yet somehow they stay faithful to one partner. Bravo, you little tuxedo-wearing bastards.
You're being ridiculous.
For Daniel Radcliffe, it's no surprise that the Harry Potter movies dwarf, or hobbit, the rest of his catalog in terms of dollars and cents, but magic was also aplenty in Now You See Me 2, where his villainous turn helped notch $328 million. The Lost City found $183 million in gold bullion, and The Woman in Black scared up $128 million, and I was part of the paying audience for that. It's a really cool horror flick. But for these lads, it's not just about the blockbusters. They've made a bunch of tiny films that have grown sea legs via word of mouth after their theatrical run ended. So you've probably heard of Swiss Army Man, starring Radcliffe as a corpse, who apparently had a nice meal of beans right before he died, or Kill Your Darlings, where he plays Allen Ginsberg. But those two flicks didn't even muster a combined $8 million at the Cineplex. And Elijah Wood showed us a ton of range at a tender young age with early 90s movies like Radio Flyer and North, but those team up and land south of 12 million bones. Which means I expect both career totals to be sky high, but this round may be won by the law of averages. And is there anything that guarantees viewer retention more than laws and math? There probably is, so I'll do it quick. All told, Elijah Wood featured films have grossed $6.3 billion at the box office, making for a per-movie average of $191 million. That's an insanely high bar to pole vault over. Does Radcliffe have the right stuff? Well, let's see, there's been 1, 2, 3. There's been a lot of Harry Potter adventures, and when we add those up with the rest of his diverse resume, it equals $8.5 billion. He's got the higher total. How about per flick average? Hey, he's pretty good there too. $406 million per movie. What's great about both fellas is that they still have long careers in front of them, so this could change in the future, or when we go back to the future. But for today, round 1 goes to Gryffindor. Daniel Radcliffe takes the point and goes up 1-0.
This is what I look like when I'm happy.
Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. All right, while it's true that many of y'all clicked on this vid or cast a spell on your smart TV to watch it,
That's completely mental.
simply because of how much you loved Danny and Elijah and their magical franchises, this round is all about how you, yes you, and the critics felt about these films after their release. What were the reviews like? There's only one way to find out. Let's get a can opener and make some sauce. Elijah Wood has been busy of late, and one of the apparent byproducts of this tear has been putting a fresh coat of paint on his career Tomatometer outlook. His last 4 projects averaged better than 90%, thanks to a voiceover in the Panama Papers' 100%, and 2021's No Man of God's 80%. Unfortunately, in his history, he's also had twin 18% outings, thanks to The Last Witch Hunter and Hustlers.
Please don't think less of me.
In fact, some of the most famous films he starred in prior to that shoeless little fella in the Shire didn't score big with critics. Radio Flyer is at just 35%, although its audience score is safely fresh at 72%. And The Good Son improves on his 25% lashing on the Tomatometer with a 54% from the audience. Then we arrive at the trilogy. People have compared it with Star Wars and Indiana Jones as possibly the best original 3 ever made, and even though Lord of the Rings doesn't have Ewoks yet, that might be the only species that's not represented. All 3 are solid in the 90s, with The Two Towers emerging as the critical favorite at 95%, followed by Return of the King at 93% and 91% for The Fellowship. You stay odd, Frodo Baggins.
There is no other way.
Also point out that The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is 92%, and Paris Je t'aime is 86%, and when we factor in Woods' TV work, he really starts to kick it in a high gear. Wilfred, remember the talking dog in the costume? That's 83%, and Star Wars Resistance is at 92%. That's so much gold, it would make Bilbo do his momentary "I must have the ring" freak out. It's hilarious at parties. And now for young Mr. Radcliffe. We should all brace ourselves for that new Weird Al movie to be a perfect 100%, in line with everything else Weird Al has ever done. And we start with his TV work. All right, well, it's pretty solid. Miracle Workers is at 76%, and A Young Doctor's Notebook is at 83%. And that's probably not a notebook that you want to self-diagnose with.
If you've got something to say, don't be shy.
All right, let's get to the real reason you know and love Daniel. Movies, like Victor Frankenstein? And, well, The Women in Black, yeah, that's a fun one. Okay, so one of those forays was fresh, and luckily it was the lady who wanted to paint it black. 66%, which is still too low for me. Unfortunately for the Frankenstein family, not every offspring is a good egg, and this one hit the skids at 26% on the Tomatometer with a 35% audience score. But Swiss Army Man, it's fresh all around. It was a big swing to take, but both critics and audiences said it cut the cheese. I mean mustard, at 72% on each measuring stick. Kill Your Darlings is also fresh all around with a 60% from the audience and a 76% from the critics. All right, now I can feel you hollering about the boy wizard who lives under the staircase, not unlike the last single-room Airbnb I used in New York City.
I have a lot of questions about all the things you just said.
Harry Potter is fresh from top to bottom. The Sorcerer's Stone kicked us off with an 81% on the Tomatometer, complemented by an 82% on the audience score, and from there we would eventually hit the high mark of the franchise of 96% with The Deathly Hallows Part 2, although Part 1 actually set the low bar with critics, coming in at a still fresh 77%. The only other Potter tale to hit the 90s was The Prisoner of Azkaban, at 90% even. So we got us a real fracas here, and it appears to be close enough that I'm going to have to incorporate the small screen exploits of both to arrive at an overall average for each dude. Daniel Radcliffe gets on the board early thanks to the audience score. His per-film average there is 63%, landing him in fresh territory, while Wood is just south at 56%. However, Elijah's TV shows fare better with an average score of 82% to Radcliffe's 78%. To the Tomatometer we go, and we're throwing it all in the Vitamix now. 67% for Radcliffe, 56% for Wood, although Wood once again wins the TV phase, averaging 86% to 80% for Daniel. So Radcliffe has the statistical advantage here, but I'm leaning towards Wood in this round. Why?
You're broken and empty and dirty and smelly and useless and old. You're like trash, right?
Shut up!
I'm glad you asked. A couple reasons. He got his start well before Lord of the Rings, and being a kid in dozens of movies doesn't always mean you get your pick of the litter. Radcliffe, though he was already a force in the theater, only had one film release before/during he was Harry Potter to generations of fans. And once we got into their signature property, Elijah starring as Frodo has a significantly higher average than Daniel as Harry. It's a close call that may be going the wrong way for a fair amount of you, but I am judge, jury, and Judy on this show, and I say Mr. Baggins gets the point in round 2 and ties things up 1-1.
You're a right foul git, you know that.
Round 3, character. Okay, Potter fans, are you done yelling at me yet?
You're being stupid.
Harry Potter and Frodo Baggins are two of the most popular characters in all of cinema, or literature for that matter, and that's a good thing. Why? Well, this round is all about who has the better resume of characters in this round. To be fair, both Potsy and Baggy had a ton of help. Harry learned the ways of the Force. What do they call it? At fabled Hogwarts, and he quickly ingratiated himself with classmates Hermione and Ron, who I hear really enjoy each other's company now. But hey, at least Harry Potter has two friends. Frodo Baggins spends most of his journeys with one, Samwise, played by Sean Astin, but you always have Gollum lurking, and they don't really want sitting at the lunch table with them.
Sneaky little hobbitses.
But he also gets some help from Gandalf the Great, and has folks like Aragorn slaying evil and Legolas knocking down baddies at an incredible clip with his bow and arrow. Elijah Wood has range to burn as he's able to go from the good kid in The Good Son to a soccer hooligan in Green Street Hooligans. Early roles showed promise as he was super young in Paradise and almost as young in Radio Flyer, and he was forever young in a movie called Forever Young, where he played Nat, a boy who Encino Man's Mel Gibson back to life after Mel was tossed into a type of military experiment stasis for 53 years. The fact that Wood could hold his own with stars like Mel Gibson, Melanie Griffith, and he was in the war with Kevin Costner, that proves he wasn't just another cute kid. He had some serious chops. But we're also able to pay tribute to Daniel Radcliffe for being wise and affable beyond his years. If Elijah Wood wasn't good in Radio Flyer, we all would have gotten over it. But if Daniel Radcliffe, at the tender age of 11, couldn't make a believable Harry Potter, that ain't good. Luckily, he was, and he's magnificent in those films, but due to their hectic schedule, he'd have to wait until after they wrapped to really sink his teeth into roles that were very opposite of a lovable magic kid. He played Igor in Victor von Frankenstein, or Victor von Frankenstein, or Igor. Whatever that movie was, he was in it. It was right on the heels of Deathly Hallows Part 2, but then he also got to do The Woman in Black, where he starred as Arthur Kipps, an unwitting young man who has to do some ghost busting. Radcliffe also soars with some biological jet propulsion technology in Swiss Army Man, a movie that feels so whacked out for like 20 minutes, but if you hang in there, it's a really fun, bittersweet, rewarding experience. It's also fun to see Radcliffe play the bad guy, where he plays, shocker, a magic enthusiast named Walter Mabry in Now You See Me Too. And from all early accounts, the dude becomes Al in Weird, the Al Yankovic story. But Elijah Wood can expand his horizons as well, playing the eccentric Tony in I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, and a serial killer and maniac who cuts the skin off his victims' heads and puts them on the mannequins in his late mother's shop. It's such a toss-up in this round between two artists who almost seem like they're trying to keep pace with one another. They have similar looks, and they can play the center of a gargantuan franchise or branch out with fun, eclectic, smaller movies. But early on in his career, Elijah Wood had the benefit of showing off his talents with a much wider swath of films than Radcliffe, and he was a standout among the more established adult players. Sure, once Harry got to Hogwarts, he was running up and down the halls alongside Richard Harris and Alan Rickman, which is kind of what makes this call so tough. Both have succeeded in avoiding the ultimate Hollywood trap, just being known as one thing their entire careers, so job well done. But I still feel like I've seen a little more from Elijah Wood before, during, and after Lord of the Rings than with Radcliffe and Harry Potter. In what is probably going to be another controversial call, I'm going with the Maniac in this round, and Elijah goes up 2-1 over Daniel.
Guaranteed to jack you.
Round 4, iconic moments. Fret not, Harry Potter enthusiasts and Kill Your Darling supporters. Now we come upon a round chock full of the best scenes, sequences, and scenarios within one's film vault. And when you consider how much content our stars have given me to chew on in this phase, you would assume that they should look much older by now, but no. Are they like even aging?
I thought the beard would help.
Maybe casting spells helps. It's fun to do when you're playing a collectible card game like Magic the Gathering, but for Harry Potter, this is literal life or death, and not just for him. Even before it was clear how imposing Voldemort, am I allowed to?
You must be very brave to mention his name.
There's certain moments that gave us chills as we are all finally witnessing them happen not on the pages of a book, but on a giant screen. Platform 9.75, or as many of you call it 9 3/4, 9 3/4. But for me, the first real memorable scene in Harry Potter lore is when we enter the Great Hall of Hogwarts. It did make me want to go back to school, but to this day, we're all curious as to which house we would have been sorted into. The Chamber of Secrets brought us just that, and Dobby gets free! Or as I call him, Gollum, if G-Slice had gone into therapy and made something of himself. But the real selling point of many Potter flicks is the duels that keep us in suspense, which could be an intense Quidditch match or the first battle between Harry and Draco. Many fans point to Prisoner of Azkaban as the film that marked the beginning of puberty for the famed trio of Harry, Hermione, and Ron, and it's not a coincidence that that's when the S started hitting the fan. We get the Dementor on the train, the shrieking shack, and just the overall mood of the flick is darker. Director Alfonso Cuarón even made a conscious effort to put gray, looming skies in the distance, a stroke of genius on his part and a hint as to what was to come. While Mr. Potter was growing up and getting immersed deeper into the mythos of his world, Frodo Baggins was on quite a journey of his own, as in taking the ring to Mordor to destroy once and for all. Luckily, he had help on the way from Eagles, who picked him up and let him recline in first class on his way. They didn't take him, did they? Unbelievable. They're less reliable than Spirit Airlines. Seeing the Shire live and breathe was a treat for Tolkien fans and newbies alike, on a par with getting to chill at Hogwarts. In the Fellowship of the Ring, we're also treated to cave troll battles in the mines, a few harrowing chase scenes from which we barely escape, and, can we just run it one more time? Bilbo freaking the F out. That might be my favorite scene in movie history. I have no idea what's wrong with me. Then we get so many intense moments in The Two Towers and Return of the King, and let's not forget how clutch Sam is. The dude swims out to join Frodo in the first film and almost meets his end there. Then he carries his pal up Mount Doom, which does not have Sherpas, saving Frodo multiple times on the way. Samwise Gamgee, always with the big shot. He's the Robert Ory of Middle-earth.
Frodo wouldn't have got far without Sam.
Of course, both actors are much more than just these characters. Wood also has the emotional proposal scene in Deep Impact, or as it is known around the world, not Armageddon, We also have the electrocution scene from the ice storm, and Eternal Sunshine earns a shout just for Elijah's wicked sideburns. Daniel also had the most bang for his buck playing a corpse in Swiss Army Man. Bernie walked so Manny could run. Radcliffe has some legit scares to overcome with the Woman in Black. And oh, we've only highlighted 3 Potter flicks thus far, and it's already a close call? Okay, so let's get deeper. Harry and Voldemort have their first tussle in Goblet of Fire, and that's happening in the shadow of the Triwizard Tournament. Order of the Phoenix would bring Luna Lovegood into the mix and see Harry go from student to teacher with Dumbledore's army. Then we arrive at the Deathly Hallows. Unfortunately for Dobby, that title is quite literal, and even though I maintain that Voldemort kind of mailed it in the final fight, or maybe he just didn't think he had a chance at losing, like when Tyson fought Buster Douglas, that's not Harry's fault. He beat the team in front of him on that crucial day. He was just the better man. And watching Hagrid carry Harry to Hogwarts and seeing the 3 of them all grown up on the bridge, see, now I'm getting misty-eyed. It's good stuff. Those children clearly took their Flintstones vitamins.
Of course I did.
Both Daniel Radcliffe and Elijah Wood are allegedly adults now, with impressive resumes featuring enough memorable moments to rival anyone. But at the end of this day, there's just too many great Potter sequences, Daniel Radcliffe in the middle of it all, and now he can play a great Weird Al and the accordion? Okay, he gets the point in round 4, and we're all tied up 2-2.
Well, you know, it's a classic for a reason.
And now it's time for the wild card round. I need a hero. Tied ball game as we enter the 9th inning, which is baseball speak for the last round in verses. But much like America's sporting pastime, when it is the bottom of the 9th, you want your best player with the bat in their hands. And thus, the council here at Versus, which is me,
we're on a plane with no pilot,
has decided that the final and determining round in this match could only be who's the better hero of their signature story. Frodo Baggins for Elijah Wood, or is it Daniel Radcliffe and his calling card character, Igor?
Okay, buddy.
Victor Frankenstein was not a good movie. I just can't stop referencing it. Okay, we'll go with Harry Potter, because look, they're both clearly heroes time and time again, so let's see who is the best once and for all. I know I'm going to get killed for this opinion either way, so remember, we're all doing this in good fun. We're celebrating both franchises.
I'd say you were scared.
It is Frodo Baggins who does step up boldly in a big way earlier than does Harry, because Frodo volunteers himself as the ultimate jeweler, offering to be the one to take the ring to Mordor while the rest of the council was bickering about who should do it. It may not have been his task to undertake. Gandalf is appreciative yet apprehensive, but he's the one that enlisted, and that scores major hero points in my book. But let's also look at the fact that Harry Potter isn't in jail on multiple automobile theft charges. That's heroic because look at his background. He just lost his parents, he's got to live with a pretty hard aunt and uncle, and he still turned out to be a good egg? And he only stole one car, right? The one that flew? I'll take it. He'll also save you from trolls, he'll take the game-winning shot in Quidditch. The kid can really do it all. But just the fact that he's a nice person after what he's been through gets him on the scoreboard early as well. One of the most impressive features about Harry is that he learns from his heroic mistakes. There's plenty of times when he's up to the task of saving the day, like in his first bout with Voldemort since he was a wee zygote, and he's just not quite ready. Much like the rookie quarterback throwing a lot of interceptions, he's learning how to be great the hard way.
I didn't do it on purpose.
Frodo never really wanted to be great, he just likes hanging out with his pals, even the ones that don't always deserve his affection, like Gollum. He tries to get him some help. And then there's the real tried and true buddies like Sam. And the whole reason he had to save him from drowning is because Frodo wanted to take to the seas simply to get out of the way of our other beloved characters, saving them from harm. That guy's a mensch. But it's hard to get more menschy than Harry Potter stepping up at the moment of truth when he's willing to sacrifice himself to destroy Voldemort once and for all. And this is with the assumed knowledge that Hermione and Ron are going to get together, making him the friend on the outside. Look, dude, I've been the third wheel. I am still in most scenarios. Just keep believing.
Actually, sir, after all these years, I'll just sort of go with it.
Frodo rises to the occasion as well, only really giving into the ring when it's a first down away from meeting its demise in the volcano.
The ring is mine.
All the riddle solving and selfless decision making came down to that one moment, and we got the job done, all without wearing shoes. It's an underdog story for Frodo, a Tom Brady, if you will, who went unnoticed until the 6th round of the draft and was finally taken as a backup quarterback. Harry Potter, he's got the pedigree like a John Elway, chosen by birth to be great and living up to the legend. So who's better? Well, in football, that debate mostly goes one way these days. But in art, I gotta imagine the most pressure is on being someone who's always been referenced as the one. That kind of pressure has cracked many a character before, and it saw folks like Anakin Skywalker break bad under the spotlight of temptation. But Harry stayed true throughout, and even after he did die briefly taking out Voldemort, he held on to his fart until it was more appropriate to do so in Swiss Army Man. Harry Potter gets the win in the wildcard round, and thus Daniel Radcliffe takes the match.
You make it almost too easy.
As I referenced throughout this episode, I know there's plenty of Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter fans watching this, and you have your fervent opinions, and that's all fair and well. So let us hear them now. You can hit me up anytime on social media at Mark Ellis Live. Check in with our team at Rotten Tomatoes. But also, there's a lot of other movies these two artists have been in, so check them out. Maybe they're not all for you, but the ones that are really going to get your goat. Speaking of goats, well, we had Frodo, we had Harry today, so all that's left to say is, I guess we'll be seeing you real shortly here on Versus. I'm your host, Mark Ellis, and Gollum, this one's for you.